Last time, our protagonist Han So-jin was struggling to clear the 10th floor after splitting up from Edis's party who were buying them time. Han's party, now in the midst of the goblin horde, trying to push through with Ioka's firepower. In the chaotic battlefield, Han notices that the goblins' movements have changed, having to slash through a group of them that charged in despite the fire magic they just used. Looking up, he finds a goblin dressed like a general, shouting orders from the rear, taking advantage of Ioka's casting delay to halt their progress. Seeing this, he gathers everyone up and declares that they only have one chance to tear that monster with decorations on his head apart. With Ioka preparing to cast again, the goblin general sends in swarms of goblins to stop her, Han dashing in between them, kneeing one in the face and using its body as a shield to protect her. Ioka finishing her spell and casting Ignite, sending a massive blast of fire magic through the enemy ranks, but they immediately rush forward again. However, this time Ioka follows Ignite up with the spell Burn, decimating those that rushed in with the AoE explosion attack, whilst Jenna, guarded from the spell's fallout by Aaron, takes aim with her bow, sending a single arrow flying, directly sniping the general in the face to take him out. The mana drained Ioka, almost fainting from exhaustion, caught by and held in the arms of Han, who thinks despite magic's power it can't kill them all. Han watches the horde, who without the general in command must now choose between attacking them or their original target, the fortress. Han breathing a sigh of relief as the army changes target to the fortress once more. Now by the river, his party catch their breath and he tells them to put the health potions on their wounds and take a gulp. Jenna displeased at the bitter taste. Han thinking their battle begins now as he looks over the dam, as 19 level 9 goblins make their way toward them, when a giant foot shakes the ground on impact. Han facing it head on, saying this time they brought a big friend, as a level 23 ogre stomps toward them. He then tells Ioka to create a firewall to deal with the goblins and Aaron to protect her before taking on the ogre himself. He dodges out of the way of its hammer, smashing the ground where he was, leaping out of the way again at his backswing, thinking just one direct hit will kill him, even with his shield. Ioka then isolating the ogre with a wall of flames, and Han and Jenna beginning their counter-attack. The arrows Jenna had just embedded in it popping out under the influence of its monstrous regeneration. Han explaining that it doesn't dodge because it doesn't need to, and they need to aim for its vitals. But before they can act, Jenna yells out to inform him that another ogre is on its way. Han in a cold sweat as Aaron can't help as he's busy blocking the arrows of the goblins targeting Ioka. Needing to act before the second one arrives, he rushes in, deflecting the blow of the ogre with his shield and ignoring the pain of his shattered arm, getting right under it and stabbing upwards, thinking this bastard is a male too. Then jumping up its body and stabbing it in the back of the neck, evading its lashing arm, leaving the sword lodged in its neck. But with the sword too shallow, he batters it in all the way with his shield, then pulling out his sword with a flood of blood gushing from the defeated ogre, looking up with a determined glint in his eye, finding the second charging toward Ioka and Aaron. Jenna tries to lure it away with her arrows, and Aaron tries to block its path, but with both failing, Ioka barely manages to get out of the way. However, to their surprise, the charging ogre continues on its way, Han only now realizing that the ogre was aiming for the dam, not Ioka. Using her speed, Jenna jumps on the monster's back, driving her daggers into its neck repeatedly. Han also charging after it, desperate to stop it from destroying the dam. The pair's combined attack sending the ogre tumbling over and crashing into the river next to the dam. Han just about to breathe a sigh of relief when a hand bursts out of the water, the ogre using the last of its strength to launch its massive fist into the dam, collapsing the center. The sight leaving Han unresponsive to the calls of his party, unsure of what to do now. Getting snapped back to reality by the touch of Aaron, Han says they need to return and set up a second plan. Ioka then stopping them from leaving and using the spell Dre's Cyrus to lift a massive rock out of the ground and plug the gap in the center of the dam. The shocked Han yelling at the bragging Ioka for not telling him she knew telekinesis, then letting go of her swollen cheek, thanking her since they would have failed without her. Jenna then yelling that the goblins are back, with a swarm of goblins bearing down on them. The party fighting back with Han cutting one in half, Jenna firing off arrows and Aaron piercing another through the head. Han starting to feel anxious that they were wrong about support being on its way, when a single goblin manages to break through their defense, targeting Iyoka, who is restoring her mana. The mage protected last minute by a lion-armored knight on horseback, the knight then calling for the Iron Lion cavalry, Han turning to find the armored cavalry charging in to their aid. Han then ordering Jenna and Aaron to stop gawking and go to Iyoka, the 500-man cavalry making quick work of the goblin army despite being outnumbered, then pushing onward to the fort. Han then asks his party if they know how to ride horses, seeing the mounts of 2 fallen soldiers. Han requesting the skill book Basic Horse Riding from the master, which costs 500 gems, able to learn the basic skill from the battle item shop since it isn't directly related to battle. Han riding with Iyoka on one horse and Jenna with Aaron on the other, joining the counterattack ready for some retaliation. Han noting that their biggest threat is the goblins with the siege towers to the north, where the cavalry is heading now. But knowing the game won't be that easy, he tells the others they're heading to the north forest, away from the battle, the rain clearing up as they gallop toward the tree line. Han thinking bingo, spotting 211 goblin riders waiting in ambush within the forest. He then tells Iyoka to focus what mana she has left on AoE instead of power, and to sear the entire forest as he rides across it. Meanwhile, back at the fort, the goblins on the siege towers make it to the top of the wall, Edis saving Dika from falling off when one tries to take him with it, whilst the Iron Lion cavalry collide with the massive goblins on the ground below. Edis taking this scene to mean Han succeeded, telling her party to hold on as victory is near. Back at the North Forest, Iyoka chants her spell Ignite, Han's party watching on to see the towering flames consuming the forest and the goblins trapped within. Han thinking it's probably better if the whole forest burns down since the goblins will be cleansed. With this, the mission would eventually conclude with the city soldiers and cavalry taking heavy casualties but overcoming the enemy numbers with their superior skills and claiming victory. Han's party returning to the fort walls, greeted by Edis's warm welcome, with everyone all smiles since no one in the 2 parties died this time around. Jenna asking, still with a wide grin, but why aren't we going back? Isn't the mission over? These words halting Han's jubilation, transforming it into unease. The world of the stage suddenly freezing, turning monochrome with only Han left unaffected as ominous system messages announce there is an error in the server, and he has been disconnected. Han then hearing a distorted voice telling him to look behind him, where he finds 2 pixelated figures in the distance. Focusing in to see one of them is the level 999 unknown creature that brought him here, now truly unnerved, gritting his teeth as he thinks back on his first encounter with the bastard, his unease becoming anger at the bastard that brought him here. Han then pausing and concentrating on the figure behind, seeing the cloaked level 15 Dark Disciple, who gives him a smug look saying I will wait for you, before fading away into the forest, whilst the unknown being disappears. With its disappearance, the system is restored, and he is reconnected to the server. Han immediately yelling in distress for Jenna to get in the castle. Dark Disciple is a monster that hasn't been reported to appear on the lower floors, and its traits include resurrecting the dead into living corpses that attack until you destroy their skull, not something that should be on the 10th floor. Now at the gate of the castle, Jenna turns around to see Han stopped outside. Him leaving Iyoka behind and telling them to protect the goddess statue with Edis and hold on till he gets back. Jenna and Aaron both yelling at Han, anxious at the sudden turn of events. Han on the mount alone asking Aaron if he is gonna make it back with him or get eaten alive. Aaron settling his nerves and replying, I'll go back with you. Jenna then asking, you will come back, right? Our boy giving a stoic smirk and heading out, answering, of course, as the gate closes. Iyoka also telling him not to die, with Han still smiling, saying you too. Now alone, Han steels himself for the struggle ahead, sword and shield in hand as he trots toward the undead army in his path. Charging ahead, taking out the grotesque corpses one by one, destroying their skulls. Han then looking back to see one of the undead ogres beginning to bash in the gate, the undead ogre successfully breaking through the door and unleashing the swarm of undead inside. Han resolving himself to not go back, as he just needs to get rid of the disciple, cutting through the flames and undead on his way to the forest where the disciple is waiting. Back in the base, Edis is leading the others better than he expected despite the situation. Han thinking that if Jenna and Aaron can also use their experience from the 5th floor, they should be able to hold on for a while. Meanwhile, Han, heading deeper into the burning forest, awakens his fire resistance to level 2, him dicing up some of the undead still in the forest and replenishing his strength with potions as he arrives at the regional boundary of the map, calling out, "I know you're here." Whilst he stands on guard in the flames, messages begin to pop up. Mekin is feared. Shern is feared. Mekin has returned to the goddess's embrace. Edis is inflicted with bleeding. Dika is feared. When suddenly a sharp shadowy attack rapidly homes in on him, Han quickly raising his shield to block, but the attack pierces the shield, hitting him in the shoulder. Blood dripping down his back and shoulder, Han thinks of his opponent, who despite typically not being good at combat is still pretty strong, since they're on the lower floors where it doesn't belong. The monster sending a flurry of magic attacks, with Han doing his best to dodge and block, in the end still getting hit in the back by one of the attacks. Breathing heavily, now inflicted with bleed and with fumes from the smoke all around, he needs to end it before he passes out. Then he hears the voice of the disciple asking to talk. Han replying, "Alright, what about?" as he gathers his focus. Then, as the disciple goes to reply, he launches his sword in the direction of the voice, the disciple letting out a squeal of pain from the impact of the sword. Han quickly pulls out his dagger and enters the berserk state, charging to the position of the disciple, his left arm sent flying by the disciple's attack in retaliation. But in his berserk state, he just grits his teeth and soldiers on. The disciple sending out more attacks, grasping the sword embedded in his chest. The attacks leaving the charging Han full of gaping holes in his chest and sides, his pupils blazing in a raging red as he bears down on the alarmed disciple. The berserk Han finally reaching him and ripping his dagger across his chest, finishing the job now on top, driving the dagger in with blood splattering everywhere. Han looks down on the defeated foe who left him in such a state, then leaning up on a tree wondering where the clear message is. Thinking to himself, is it not over yet? Exhausted and out of ideas, he closes his eyes, resigned to fate, awaiting his inevitable death as the message of Shern's return to the goddess's embrace appears. The others back in the castle fight to hold on, drained, battered, bruised and on the edge of death as they protect the goddess's statue, which finally shines in a golden light, activating the return of the survivors, with everyone remaining in both parties leveling up as they clear the hellish 10th stage of the tower. Han earning MVP with the system notifying anything that with the fire elemental stone they got as a reward, one of their heroes is awaiting promotion, unlocking the adventure dungeon and the lobby's name being changed to Townia with the clearance of the 10th floor. If you enjoyed the vid, like, sub and comment below. Peace.